Hello, and welcome to this GradLink Careers Advice session, the 3 key tips for international students. My name is David G, and I work in the Global Centre at UE Bristol. I'm also creator of GradLink, UWE's award-winning careers site for international students. GradLink can connect you with a global network of over 700 employers who are looking to recruit UK-educated international students like yourselves. I will be introducing you to GradLink in this session and explaining how you can gain the most from this free service for UE students. Okay, so moving on to today's session, the 3 key tips for international students. Now, through the creation of GradLink, I've been fortunate enough to meet and work with employers all over the world, from EY in Toronto, through to Deloitte in Shanghai, through to PwC in Dubai, and Unilever in Europe. And this has given me what I hope is a unique insight into what employers really look for when recruiting international students who have studied in the UK. As a result of this, I have regularly presented at key employer events and conferences, both in the UK and overseas. I've contributed to articles in the national press and to UK government research on the subject of international student employability. And I would also argue that from all this experience of meeting with employers and the advice they've given, we can distill this down into 3 key secrets to success for international students. In other words, 3 key things that international students should be doing while they are studying in order to maximise their employability and to maximise their chances of getting into the career they want. And in this session, I will be revealing what I think these 3 key tips, these 3 secrets to the success are for international students. And I will also be explaining how UE can help you to achieve those. I will, of course, have one eye on the current climate and be bringing in remote and virtual solutions and context whenever appropriate. Okay, so moving on to the session then, and I will start by introducing you to GradLink. GradLink is UWE's award-winning careers site for international students. And when you go on GradLink, you will see a whole range of things. You will see jobs and internships, employers, a CV building service that helps you structure and build a winning CV and also submits it to our global network of employers, advice, blogs, social media, and indeed we have over 100,000 followers on our social media, and case studies. You can access GradLink by going to gradlinkuk.com as pointed out in the bottom right hand corner of the slide. We currently have 7 GradLink sites covering major regions around the world, such as GradLink Canada, GradLink China, and so on. You can see all the content for GradLink, as I say, at gradlinkuk.com, but you can access each of the regions by their own short URLs. So, for example, if you want to work in China, you can go to gradlinkchina.com. If you want to work in Southeast Asia, you can go to gradlinkasian.com, and so on. We have a global network of over 700 employers on GradLink, and I would argue that there are 2 things that distinguish our global network from anybody else. Firstly, this is a truly global network. When you're going into GradLink China and you see Deloitte, that is the HR department based in Shanghai. When you go on to GradLink Canada and look at EY, that is the HR department based in Toronto. The other thing that distinguishes our global network from other sites is that all these employers recognise the value of recruiting a UK-educated international student. That's why they're on the site. So it's a good shortlist to start with for finding employers that want UK-educated international students. GradLink has a range of high-profile supporters who are very visible on our site. For example, GradLink is the only careers site supported by China-Britain Business Council, the UK government's China trading organisation. GradLink has been very well recognised within the UK university community. I'm very pleased to say that GradLink was nominated for 5 major awards in its first 3 years and won the most prestigious award in the UK university calendar, the Times Higher Education Award, and we're very proud of that. When you go on the GradLink site, you'll see a whole range of testimonials from students and graduates who have benefited from the site through to employers who've also benefited from the site. I'm now going to give you a quick tour of the GradLink site, just so you can make sure you are visiting the right place. As I say, you would go to gradlinkuk.com to access all the content, and I'm going to go on there now. Okay, so this is the GradLink site. This is gradlinkuk.com, the homepage for all our content. You can see the site there, and as you scroll down, you can see links to all our regional GradLink sites. And further on, you can see there the employers are involved on the site and latest vacancies from around the world. So jobs there in Canada, Poland, India, South Africa, and so on. Now I'm going to home in on some of our regions. So for example, if I start with going to GradLink China, as I said, every single employer has their own profile on GradLink. So I'm going to go into our employers section, and here are our employers based in China. If we click on Deloitte's profile, this is the profile for Deloitte in China. So you can see there's an overview of the company, location map, links to social media, and key graduate recruitment links. We go across to Southeast Asia, so GradLink ASEAN. Every regional website has its own jobs board. So these are the jobs in Southeast Asia. You can see some of the jobs there. And also every region has its own in-depth advice section. So I'm going to go into the careers advice for Southeast Asia. And you can choose the country you're interested in. And this is the advice section for Malaysia. So you have a general tips section, and then it homes in on some of the key sectors. So I'm going to click on law. So this is the advice section for law in Malaysia, and it is fairly in-depth with some really good links. Okay, so I'm just going to draw your attention to two more things. First of all, our Facebook. I would really recommend using our Facebook. We produce unique content in the form of articles every fortnight, and these articles very much focus on the key issues at the moment for international students, the key careers issues. So these articles are careers information that are produced specifically for an international student audience in the UK. Okay, the other part I want to show you is where you register as a student. And this is where you can build your CV. You can build it through 3 easy steps. And as I say, your CV you could build your CV, and then you would put it onto the database where our global employers can search it. And one thing that's worth pointing out is it's completely secure, and you can choose which employers can search your CV. So for example, you might only want to be seen by law firms or finance firms and so on. Okay, so let's go back then to our PowerPoint. Okay, I was talking about producing your CV, and I've got an example here of the CV you can produce on GradLink, and it's an automated service, but as you can see, it produces a fairly authentic CV that you can use on GradLink, but it's also a takeaway that you can use in any other job applications you make. Now, it's worth pointing out that when you register your CV on GradLink, you can publish it at any point, or you can hide it at any point. So you can make it that employers see it at any point, or that employers can't see it at any point. And you can do that when and as often as you like. Also, you can edit and update the CV as often as you like. So if, for example, you just completed a new qualification or a different piece of work experience, you can add this to your CV, and you can remove things as well. Okay, so I've introduced you to the award-winning GradLink service. And I said at the beginning of this session that what I was going to do was introduce you to the 3 key tips for success for international students. The 3 things you should be doing whilst you are studying in the UK as an international student in order to maximise your chances of getting into the career you want. So the 3 things I'm going to reveal now. Firstly is to use GradLink. So the good news is you've already started to be introduced to the first one. Use specialist resource that will help you, and GradLink is one of those. The second thing is gain work experience. There is no doubt that by gaining work experience during your studies, you will massively increase your opportunities of getting into the career you want when you come to graduate. And really, you should be building up your work experience from year 1. The third thing is networking. This is where you would approach employers proactively, introduce yourself, raise their awareness of you, and therefore generate opportunities. Networking is when you approach employers with the objective of generating opportunities. And I'll come on to that in a moment. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on getting work experience. Now, as I say, there is no substitute for getting work experience in terms of improving your CV. But I think the thing that is really important to point out is that you can gain work experience during your studies when you're studying in the UK. And really, you should be doing that from year one. Don't wait until the final year. Do it from year one. Now, in terms of getting work experience during your studies, there are 4 things to point out. First of all, when you come to a university in the UK, you will be able to use your career service, your on-campus career service, free of charge. And I would definitely recommend using it. At UWE Bristol, we have an award-winning career service. We have a team of careers experts that can help you define the career you should go into, to build your CV and apply and go to job interviews, and also get work experience and opportunities. So you should definitely use that service and use it from as soon as you get there, so that the career service can be helping you to get work experience and build your portfolio of work experience. The second thing to point to is volunteering. Now, traditionally, international students can underestimate the value of volunteering. It is not about how much you are earning, it is about what you are doing. And if you are gaining skills and experience of interest to the employer through volunteering, that is just as valuable as getting it through paid work experience. So volunteering is something you should certainly think about, and I will come on to that in more detail in a moment, because at UWE Bristol, for example, we have a volunteering team that can help you gain the right volunteering for your CV. Placements are another great way of getting work experience. Now, I know that placements would mean that you would delay your graduation, for example, if you were doing an undergraduate. So you can do long placements for a year or short placements. In an undergraduate degree in the UK, you would generally do a placement for a year in your penultimate year. And as I say, if you do that, it will prolong the time it takes until you graduate. However, I would definitely argue that it is worth the investment of time, because statistically, those that do placements earn a higher starting salary, but also, and more importantly, generally progress in their career faster. So although it means you will graduate later, it is definitely worth the investment of time into doing a placement, and I would definitely recommend it. And the final thing to point to is networking. And this is where, rather than waiting for work experience opportunities to come to you, this is where you go out, meet employers or introduce yourself to employers and try to generate opportunities. And I will come on to that in more depth in a moment. So I've talked to you about how you can get work experience during your studies. And the really good news at UWE is that we actually have a work experience scheme that is set up specifically for international students. International talent supports international students' employability. So therefore, through international talent, you can gain a whole range of things, from work experience through to employment training and so on. International talent connects international students with UK businesses and organisations. It enables better access for international students to a range of relevant CV-enhancing employability-related training, activities and opportunities. I should point out that currently the careers team at UWE are setting up remote international talent opportunities and work experience that will hopefully take place from the summer. International talent covers a range of things. So, for example, there is employability training, where through training sessions you can develop key skills that employers are looking for, and there will be guest speakers such as the British Council have come in to speak to students as well. There are volunteering opportunities, which I've already referred to and going to come on to in more detail in a moment. Work opportunities, employee events, placements and internships. A whole range of things to help you build your CV if you are an international student. And by being at UWE, you would register for international talent and you would be sent all the suitable opportunities for you directly through alerts. I mentioned volunteering before, and I just want to come back to volunteering and point you to this statistic. 73% of employers would recruit a candidate with volunteering experience over one without. So 3 out of 4 employers would recruit a candidate with volunteering as opposed to somebody who hasn't got volunteering. And this really hopefully drives home the value added that volunteering gives to an international student. Now, think about it. Let's say, for example, you want to work in marketing and you gain some volunteering experience working on a marketing campaign for a charity. That's fantastic. And that really enhances your CV. It's giving you related experience to the job you want to get into. And it doesn't matter that it's for a charity and it's unpaid. The employer's looking at what you can offer in terms of skills and experience, not what you're being paid. Let's say you want to work in accounting or finance and an opportunity comes up to do some fundraising for a charity. Again, that is really useful experience. This experience is not only useful in itself, but it also provides bridging experience. It's a stepping stone for getting more experience in the future. So once you've got some experience with a charity, you can then think, well, now I'm going to try and get some experience with a company. And when you try to get experience, the company will see that you've gained some experience already through volunteering. So it's really worth thinking about getting that. Okay, so this next slide gives you some examples of some of the work experience that international students have done through international talent. Now, the way that international talent works is that we link international students up with employers who are looking to expand or build their presence overseas. So, for example, an employer might be keen to export to China, so they would take on a Chinese student to undertake research for them and consult with them about how to best break into that market. And that Chinese student's local knowledge will be invaluable to that employer. And I should point out that, therefore, this experience is all very intellectual, it's high level, it's creative, and it is all paid. So this gives you an example of what students think in terms of using international talent. And we've had some really positive feedback from students who've undertaken this work. Here is some feedback from employers. And I think, for example, the second quote from Mendit Media really encapsulates how international talent works. It says, rarely have I seen a more dedicated group of young people attack a project and obtain so much in just 3 days. If we had engaged a so-called consultant at expensive rates, we would have done no better than we had delivered for us. It was a remarkable achievement. So this employer took on 3 students, one an Arabic-speaking student, a Russian student, and a Chinese student, to research those markets and create a feasibility report in terms of who are the main competitors in those markets, what is the legislation in that market, and so on. And this really helped the employer. It was very high level work, it was paid, and it added really excellent quality work experience in the UK to those students' CVs. The final part that I want to point to for international talent is this excellent statistic. 100% of employers and students who engaged with the International Talent Internship Scheme rated the internship as excellent in terms of overall value to their business or career development. That is a fantastic statistic. I said earlier on that there were 3 key tips to success for international students, and I've told you 2. Number 1 was GradLink, number 2 was getting work experience. I am now moving on to the 3rd tip, which is networking. As I say, networking is where the individual, where the student, for example, proactively approaches employers to introduce themselves with the objective of creating job opportunities or work experience opportunities. So it very much is about you being proactive. Now, when I've given this talk to groups of students in the past, and I said to them, how many of you like networking? Only very few number of students put up their hand. So basically, most people do not like networking. But actually, that's really good news for you, because if you can get into the habit of networking, and that's what networking is, a habit, then you are already ahead of most people. Now, networking definitely is about success in numbers. So the more you network, the more successful you are likely to be. If you network just once and reach out to one employer, you might be unsuccessful and it might not go anywhere. But really, it is about the law of averages. The more you network, the more you will come across opportunities, the more you will create opportunities. And the more you network, you will create opportunities. So it's about getting into the habit of networking. Now, one thing to say about networking now compared to when I was at university is that there is a really powerful tool for networking, LinkedIn. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in this part of the session, is how to use LinkedIn effectively in order to create opportunities, work experience, and to get jobs. How to network on LinkedIn. Now, why be part of LinkedIn? Well, LinkedIn is by far the largest professional social media platform in the world, and the statistics are staggering. I mean, look at this picture. LinkedIn boasts over 660 million users in more than 200 countries and territories across the globe. 93% of employers are on LinkedIn. 1 in 3 professionals on the planet are on LinkedIn. It is a huge platform. Now, another thing to point out about LinkedIn is it is not just about senior managers and SEOs and managing directors. The fastest growing group of people using LinkedIn are students and recent graduates. So LinkedIn is definitely about students and recent graduates, and there are millions of students and recent graduates using LinkedIn and gaining from LinkedIn. So it's definitely important to be part of it. Why is LinkedIn essential for international students? Well, there are several reasons. Firstly, it provides you with a professional online profile to complement your CV. Now, it's interesting. The more I give this talk over the years, the more I feel like turning that around to say that a CV is something that complements your professional LinkedIn profile. In other words, slowly but surely, your LinkedIn profile is becoming the main thing that employers will look at, and a CV would just complement it. But the point to make with this top thing really is that you must have a LinkedIn profile. It's fair to say that employers would expect you to have a LinkedIn profile. Now, if employers are expecting to see a LinkedIn profile for you, they may well have question marks if you don't have a LinkedIn profile. So it's really important to have that. The second thing to say about LinkedIn is it is a very powerful thing for doing research, for researching jobs, employers, and career paths. And finally, and really the part where LinkedIn really comes into its own, is that it's so good for getting contacts, valuable contacts with people in your chosen sector in your chosen country. Okay, let's start then with how to build a LinkedIn profile. Now, I'm going to look at 3 key things on a LinkedIn profile, really to help you start to build your own profile on LinkedIn. Okay, so I'm going to use my own LinkedIn profile for the benefit of this session to really use it to show you the key parts of the profile that you should be working on. So this is my LinkedIn profile. Now, when you look down a LinkedIn profile, there's a lot that's similar to a CV. So I've got my name at the top, and then the title, which is called a headline, and I'll come back to that later, and other things. And as I go down, you see that there is a section for experience and for education and so on. Now, I am going to point to 3 key things on your LinkedIn profile to help you. The photo, the headline, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, and then the summary, which is this about section. So if we start with the photo. Now, according to LinkedIn, people are 12 times more likely to connect with you if you have a photo. And to be honest, I'm still amazed by the number of LinkedIn profiles I see that don't have a photo. You must have a photograph. Now, in terms of the photo itself, I think there are basically 2 key pieces of advice. Firstly, I think you want to produce a photo that makes you look like the sort of person that will be easy to work with. So a photo that is approachable and friendly, as opposed to something that is aloof. I think there's a lot of science that goes into things like this, but really that human instinct still works. And people will look at your photo and really be thinking, is this somebody that I could work with? So that's one thing to be bearing in mind. The second thing to bear in mind is the objective really of your LinkedIn profile. What is the audience you're trying to reach out to? So if you want to get into a very formal career, maybe for example finance, then you might think about what sort of photo you would have compared to a less formal career, maybe IT or media. it really comes down to who you are trying to reach out to. So you would build your photo based on that. The next thing I'm going to focus on is what's called your headline. Now, this is a really key part of your LinkedIn profile. The headline is basically that. It's the kind of key, succinct sentence about your profile. And it has to be really punchy in order to get somebody to read the rest of your profile. Now, again, there are two things I would say about your headline. Firstly, your headline affects your visibility. In other words, how easy it is to search for you will be based on the content of your headline. And this takes me to my second point about headlines. You need to think about how people search for things in order to build your headline. Let's say, for example, your headline says, I am studying subject A at University B. Well, searches don't really work like that, do they? People use general terms on searches as opposed to looking for a specific university. In general, that's how they search for things. If you put, I'm studying subject A at University B, you are less likely to be searched for because people won't be searching that specifically. You want to pull out the USPs. So think about that. You might say, for example, I am a business student with a first class dissertation and who has undertaken a placement at Hewlett Packard. That pulls out many more USPs of things like placement, high achieving, and that kind of thing. Now, this is quite a nuanced piece of advice and possibly the most complicated piece of advice in today's session. But it's quite easy to drive this home because the best way to understand what I'm saying is to look at some real examples. So here are some real examples of headlines from LinkedIn. Now, these are really good because, as I say, they don't just say, I am a student studying subject A at University B. They try to pull out the unique selling points and the key words. So I think, for example, when you look at the first one, they put in a business graduate specialising in accounting and finance with experience, interested in management consultancy. So phrases like experience, accounting and finance, management consultancy could be useful there in terms of searchability. The second one I think is particularly good. Those little lines are very good for allowing you to put a lot of content in a small amount of space. So this one has used terms like marketing student, fashion, blogger, social media, marketing assistant, lots of key words that you would look for if you were a marketing company. And then in the third headline, the person is homing in on their technical skills and the fact they've done a placement. So you can see how headlines work, and really the easiest way of working out the best headline for you is to think about what your unique selling points are and to do a bit of research in terms of what headlines have students and graduates used on LinkedIn. Look at some real life LinkedIn profiles. Okay, I'm going to go back to LinkedIn now to look at the last thing on the profile that I'd like to give more detail about. Okay, the next part I'm going to talk about is the summary, which is this part here, which says about. Now, the first thing you'll notice about the summary is that it has one line and then you press see more. So it's important to remember that because you want to really put the really eye-catching and powerful stuff at the beginning of your summary, and then people will be enticed into reading more. So your summary is a more detailed overview about you. And this is really where you can start to bring in specifics. So if, for example, in your headline you said you did a placement, you could talk here a little bit about your achievements on your placement, your responsibilities, skills developed. You might put detail about your course, about modules undertaken, where you've scored very well, responsibilities in terms of being on student committees and so on. So this is really where you start to kind of enumerate some of your specific selling points and giving some detail. Now, one thing that students can get concerned about is they don't have loads and loads of experience. That's fine, because what you can do on your summary is you can point to your passion for that job. And that is something you really should have, is your passion for getting into that career, your enthusiasm for getting into that career. So this is where you can really go to town on showing a genuine enthusiasm and passion for the career you want to get into. So in order to demonstrate this, I'm going to show you again some real life examples. So these are real life examples of summary that students have done. And these are two really good examples. So I'm going to talk about the first one. So this person has put fashion marketing and branding student at, and that's the university name. We've taken it out for GDPR purposes, with an avid passion for all things digital, currently working as social media and marketing assistant at magazine, and blogger and founder of, and then it's the website name. And then they go into a bit about their skills and their enthusiasm. A dedicated, enthusiastic, fashion literate individual with strong skills in Adobe Photoshop, InDesign, and online writing, looking to expand knowledge and expertise in the digital fashion industry, particularly focusing on all aspects of creating digital content. Now, when they talk about their passion in the last part there, I get the feeling they genuinely know what they're talking about and they are genuinely committed and passionate about that career rather than just giving it lip service. You want it to sound researched, knowledgeable, literate, and authentic. So those are the summary examples. Now, the last part of today's talk is really homing in on networking on LinkedIn. And this is really where LinkedIn comes into its own, where its real power comes out. This is where you can use LinkedIn to reach out and connect with professionals in the industry you want to get into, to start building your network so that you can create opportunities. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you two key strategies for starting to build your network on LinkedIn and help you to start to build up the contacts you need in the industries you are trying to get into. Okay, I'm just going to go back onto my LinkedIn profile to show you one thing. So looking at my profile again, I just want to draw your attention to this box, the search box. Now, in this box, you can actually search for people. And so you could find people in particular industries or people you know. And then when you found them, you can get to that, you will access an introduction to their profile, and there is a chance to invite them to connect with you. And that's how you start to build up your connections, by inviting people to connect with you. That is how you build up your network. So how do you start to build up your network? How do you successfully connect with people in order to build up your network on LinkedIn? Well, at this point, really, I need to bring in a key concept about LinkedIn. Now, when you go onto LinkedIn and you add a profile, what happens as you go forward is that LinkedIn will start to suggest people that you can connect with. Now, these suggestions are based on the people you are already connected with. So in other words, the more people you are connected with, the more people that LinkedIn can suggest you should connect with. So in other words, connections will breed connections. Now, the other thing that's important to point out when you're building a network on LinkedIn is that people are much more likely to connect with you if they either know you or know the people that you know. So, for example, let's say that I want to connect with person B and I'm already connected with person A. Now, if person B knows person A, they are more likely to connect with me. This is about first degree connections are the people you know. And the more first degree connections you have, the more second degree connections you will have. Second degree connections are people that know the people you know. And the more second degree connections you have, the more third degree connections you will have. And these are people that know the people that know you. You can see there how connections breed connections. So this moves us on to the first strategy for building your connections on LinkedIn. And it's quite simply to start with who you know. If you ask to connect with people who know you, they are much more likely to connect with you. And you can quite quickly build up your number of connections by just reaching out and linking with the people you know. Now, the thing is, you'll probably be surprised by the number of people you know. I mean, you'll know people on your course, you'll have relations that you know, lecturers, managers at part-time jobs, for example, friends you have outside of your course, and people you know through extracurricular activities such as sports, maybe your sports coach, sports managers, and so on. So all of these people are worth thinking about connecting with. And remember, by connecting with these, you will have more second degree connections. There will be more people that know the people you know. Okay, and the other thing worth pointing out is the people on your course, the students on your course. Yes, at the moment you are all students, but this is a very powerful future network because on your course you have future entrepreneurs, future SEOs, future managing directors. It's a really, really fantastic future network. So it's really good when it's relatively easy to start connecting with each other. So try to connect as much as possible with students on your course, friends on your course, and all the people you know. I'm now going to move on to the second strategy for building your network on LinkedIn, and this is alumni. You may not know this, but when you go to university, you will be able to tap into a network, a huge network of people that have something in common with you, a huge network on LinkedIn, and that is alumni, graduates from your university. Now, this really brings me to another key concept. People are more likely to connect with you if you make a personalized approach. In other words, if you approach somebody you don't know to connect with you, they are more likely to connect with you if you make a meaningful approach, if you make an approach that is personal to them. Now, the great thing about alumni and graduates is you already have something in common. You have your university in common. So, in other words, if you ask to connect with an alumni, you can say, "Hi, I see you went to UWE Bristol. I'm at UWE Bristol now. I'd really like to connect with you and ask for your advice." You have this icebreaker that you can use. Now, we're going to go back onto LinkedIn, and I'm going to demonstrate this for you. So, looking at my profile again, I'm going to go right down to education. And to my education, I've added the University of the West of England, okay? And obviously I can edit that to say the course I'm studying and dates and detail and so on. But for the purposes of this session, I just really want to show you what happens when you add the University of the West of England. If you decide to study at the University of the West of England, you can add it to your profile and you can then go onto the University of the West of England page. And on the University of the West of England page, there will be an alumni button. If I press that, you can see that there are over 100,000 alumni from UWE Bristol on LinkedIn, a huge global network of over 100,000 people that you have something in common with. So it's much easier to network with. And what is more, you can search the alumni by title, keyword, company. So you could search for people in the industry you want to get into, in the country you want to get into. So if, for example, you want to work in accountancy in Nigeria, you could search for graduates from UWE Bristol who are now working in accountancy or finance in Nigeria. And what a perfect contact to reach out to. And as I say, you're much more likely to be successful because you have that thing in common. Okay, so that's the last part on the LinkedIn section of today's session. Now, I said to you at the beginning of this session that I was going to talk about 3 key tips for international students. 3 things that international students should be doing during their studies to maximise their employability and to maximise their chances of getting into the job they want. And I would definitely argue that if you use specialist resource, for example, like GradLink, if you build up your portfolio of work experience as much as possible while you're studying, and if you use LinkedIn to raise your profile and to network, you will increase your chances of getting a job manifold compared to if you don't do those 3 things. Okay then, so in summary, GradLink is a key resource for international students. Work experience is central to career success. LinkedIn is central to career success. So therefore, use GradLink from now. Follow us on Facebook to get the latest news and advice for international students studying in the UK about jobs and careers. Use GradLink to build your CV, to do your research and to apply for jobs and internships. Get work experience from year 1. Use your careers service. UWE has an award-winning careers service and we have a work experience scheme set up for international students. And you can use this from year 1. Build your LinkedIn profile now. Employers would expect you to have a LinkedIn profile. And what's more, you can use LinkedIn to start reaching out to key contacts and increasing your chances of getting work experience and jobs in the future. And as I said, you can already start building your network by linking with alumni. So, for example, UE Bristol has over 100,000 alumni on LinkedIn. I hope that's been useful. Good luck with your careers and hope to speak to you again.